In the next 10 minutes, I will show you how you can dissect stories of successful people and businesses and how you can start using that in your own life today. Welcome. My name is Luc Nicolas Verrichtien. My mission is to help aspiring entrepreneurs and also current business owners that have a business but that want to grow and optimize for sustainable, purpose-driven profit growth. So welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here. Please don't forget to subscribe. And I just wanted to mention that I have mentoring program where I help aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners. Like I mentioned, my mission is to help them grow and optimize their current business to achieve a sustainable profit that is truly sustainable and also driven by a purpose, driven by your life's calling. So let's get started. I will give you some fantastic examples, some eye-opening examples on how big businesses, but also smaller ones and people successfully pivoted from providing a very specific product or service into providing something completely different. So let's start with example of Nokia. Well, depending on when you were born, you might remember these die-hard Nokia phones that you could throw against the wall and nothing would happen. So these Nokia phones were produced by the company Nokia, but they didn't always make cell phones. In fact, they were a paper mill company. And before actually deciding to build one of the first cell phones, they had a successful paper mill company. And what I like to do is always draw up a graph of basically where the company began and where they ended up, right? So this is the beginning and this is the end of a company. With end, I actually mean current state. But that gives a good overview of how you can actually dissect what's happening. Well, I'm a very visual person, so for me, it helps to put everything, to write down, to sketch everything on a piece of paper to see what actually happens. So in this example, we are talking about the Nokia company. And Nokia, they started out as a paper mill company in the 1800s, right? So and this is then let's say the 1990s. So from 1800s all up towards the 1990s, they went from providing milling services where they basically pressed out pieces of paper that then was used for whatever function the paper was used for. So these are the paper mills that squash the paper and the paper comes out. Okay. The idea is not that my drawings are good. The idea is to understand that they actually pivoted from providing paper mill services to designing the first Nokia ever, which had all of these fantastic buttons on them, right? So this was the first Nokia cell phone. Okay. And these were the mills that they were actually working with. So they pivoted from being a paper mill company to providing cell phones. You might be thinking, how is it possible that a company becomes successful from doing something to going towards something completely different? Well, the answer is that they saw an opportunity in this industry, and what they did was, very rightfully so, they grabbed that opportunity. Even perhaps they did not have the same expertise that they already had. You couldn't apply what they already knew. They couldn't apply the workforce that was working for their business towards working for the technology business. But they found the pivot. So Nintendo. So again, we have our beginning and then we have our end. And from a timeline towards end, somewhere here in 1966, Nintendo decided to make these game consoles where you can play Mario, King Kong, whatever these games are. They actually pivoted from everything from being a short stay hotel. So they had hotel rooms, they developed instant rice, they developed all sorts of businesses, and they actually pivoted from their many businesses towards providing game consoles, right? And this is also a fantastic example of how a company actually pivot from one to another. So the last example I want to be giving is Starbucks. Starbucks is a fantastic example because what they basically what they did was they had coffee machines. So they had these big coffee machines where you put in the coffee, and of course the idea was more towards not towards consumers but much more towards businesses. So they had a much more B2B approach. Whereas if you compare that to what they're doing now, I mean it's fantastic if you think about it. They actually set up a a third place, they call it, a place where you can meet with other people, you can drink your coffee, you can meet your friends, you can meet your family, you can meet your business opportunities, your leads, and have a coffee and meet there. And what they basically did, what the founder did, was he went to Italy, and there he got a taste of how they yeah well how they were actually drinking their coffee, and they were drinking their coffees in these kind of pubs where they were enjoying their time to enjoy the coffee, to enjoy perhaps a beverage with a friend or whatever the case is. He applied that from his business. So the idea of actually being together, so he combined what he had with the idea of being together with people drinking a bit of hot coffee, right? So that's the idea, and he combined that to build Starbucks, which is fantastic if you think about it. So he built Starbucks by combining and by pivoting from going to B to B2C. So that's the first big change, right? I mean, if you think about it, companies that serve other businesses have a different approach compared to companies that serve consumers. It's just a different way of working, different business model. And what you then can see is that they started out from being much more centered towards manufacturing towards now much more providing services. So that's also a big pivot that they actually went throughout the years. And well, these examples that they have given about Nintendo, about Nokia, about Starbucks are just a few examples of how you can start to dissect what actually happened, what's actually happening, and where a company or you as a person might end up. And the conclusion that we can make from all of these shifts and changes, which eventually led to these companies being successful businesses, is that they embraced change. They realized that in order to create more success, to become a more sustainable business, they had to realize they had to realize that pivot in perhaps the customers they serve. So, for example, for Starbucks, it was moving from B2B to B2C and adding a touch of flavor, adding that Italian coffee house experience. Whilst for Nokia, it was completely entirely different, going from being a paper mill towards producing one of the first cell phones. And for Nintendo, it was trying everything that there was in the market, from making instant rice to making packages for or an instant hotel, towards making one of the most well-known consoles, right? So the question here is, how can you apply these experiences and these lessons in your day-to-day? Well, the answer is quite simple. You can model after what they have done. And what they have done is they have taken something that they found that works, right? And they added a new flavor. They perhaps twisted up the way the product is served. They perhaps changed the way the the market to which the product is sold. So there are many variations. So the first is change, because we in business, change is the only constant, and the only reason that businesses will remain existence is if they embrace change. I can assure you, any business that you're in, any business that you're in, if you do not embrace change, sooner or later, your performance will suffer, and most probably the business will have to close up. So these lessons are, in my eyes, in my perspective, are enormously valuable to apply. And you can, of course, use this method, this model that I use from comparing where a company began to where it ended up being, and then just drawing out what happens. And then what it does is make clear for you visually what the changes are. So what are the changes from the beginning? What are they doing now? What happened? So I really hope you found this video valuable. If you did, please subscribe to this channel, leave behind a comment, and see you in the next one.